Hello again, everyone. We are back with an overview of the final subclass we have to go over for subclasses Part 3, Unearthed Arcana 2020, and that is going to be the Fey Wanderer Ranger. As mentioned, we already took a look at the Armorer Artificer and the Circle of Stars Druid. Be sure to check those videos out if you haven't already. And I've also done videos for the subclasses prior to those in previous Unearthed Arcana updates. But yes, today we'll be focusing on the Fey Wanderer Ranger. As you know, we're just going to look at the features in a mechanical combat aspect, not too worried about the fantasy or flavor of the class or subclass. And yeah, without any more babble, let's just get into it. Starting off at 3rd level, we have Fey Wanderer Magic. You learn an additional spell when you reach certain levels in this class, as shown by the table. The spell counts as a ranger spell for you, but it doesn't count against the number of ranger spells you know. Now, forgive me, but they've redone Ranger so many times. I'm trying to remember if they've done these sort of expanded spell lists for every single subclass. I'm decently sure that they did them for the Xanathar's subclasses. In fact, I'm 100% sure that they did expanded spell lists for the Xanathar's Ranger subclasses. But maybe the Hunter and the Beastmaster have been left out of this? Possibly? I don't know. They've redone those two subclasses 5 times now. It's really hard to keep track. But what are the spells for our Fey Wanderer Magic? At 3rd level, we get Charm Person. Pretty good spell. Definitely want to use it out of combat or else they get advantage on the saving throw, but still a very useful spell. At 5th level, we have Misty Step. Just a bonus action 30-foot teleport. Extremely useful for getting yourself out of tight situations. At 9th level, we have Dispel Magic. Of course, an extremely good spell. Being able to end magical effects on yourself, a party member, or an object comes up a lot. At 13th level, we have Banishment, definitely one of the most save or screw spells in 5th edition, and a Charisma save at that, not too many of those out there. And at 17th level, we have Mislead, which I wasn't actually familiar with before seeing it here, but it does seem like a pretty good illusion spell. So overall, these Fey Wanderer spells, they're all good. They are great, in fact. Keep in mind that Rangers, their magic and spell slots work a lot like Paladins, and Artificers now. The highest spell slot level they can get is 5th. But yeah, getting these 5 free spells that you were probably going to take anyway, but now you don't have to spend those precious few spell knowledge slots, or however you want to phrase it. Knowable spells? I don't know. You were probably going to take all these spells anyway, but now you get them for free, and that's good. Also at 3rd level, we have Cunning Will. You have advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened. In addition, you gain proficiency in one of the following skills of your choice: Deception, Performance, or Persuasion. This is a pretty fine feature. Charms and Frightens do come up decently often, and while you are probably going to have a decent wisdom as a ranger, it is good to have advantage on those saves, because they could potentially be rather devastating. And getting another skill proficiency is always nice. Also at 3rd level, we have Dreadful Strikes. You gain a bonus action that you can use to imbue the weapon or weapons you're currently holding with magic. Until the end of the turn, the weapons are magical, and they deal an extra 1d6 psychic damage on a hit. A creature can take this extra damage only once per turn. When you engage in 2-weapon fighting, you can imbue your weapons as part of the same bonus action you use to make the attack. Having automatic magical weapons at 3rd level is pretty good. Can definitely come in handy. And 1d6 extra psychic damage per turn isn't bad at all. Or rather, 1d6 psychic damage per target. You can hit 2 separate targets and deal 1d6 psychic damage to both of them, whether you're shooting them with a bow or engaging in like 2-weapon fighting. The little stipulation at the end that allows you to actually make use of this feature while still doing 2-weapon fighting is a really good addition. So overall, just taking stock at 3rd level, this subclass is pretty good. Not crazy or anything, certainly comparable to the other ranger subclasses. At 7th level, we get Blessings of the Courts. Once during each of your turns, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend a spell slot to deal extra psychic damage. The extra damage is 3d6 psychic damage, and the creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC or be frightened of you until the end of your next turn. In addition, whenever you make a charisma check, you gain a bonus to the check equal to your wisdom modifier. So this is a really interesting feature. You sort of get the ability to Divine Strike on your weapon attacks, except of course it's psychic damage. And while you don't get any extra damage per spell slot level or anything like that, the damage is always 3d6, you do have the opportunity to frighten the target if they fail their saving throw, which can certainly be pretty useful. And I know it has nothing to really do with combat or anything like that, but I do really like the final clause of this feature. As a ranger, you're going to be focusing on dexterity and wisdom, while this is a sort of charisma-heavy subclass. So giving you a bonus to your charisma checks equal to your wisdom modifier is a really nice touch. It really just makes this sort of fey, trickster, ranger kind of idea more viable. Also keep in mind that you can do this Blessing of the Courts extra psychic damage plus wisdom save once per turn, not just on any weapon attack like with the Paladin Divine Strike. So there is that restriction there. At 11th level, we have Beguiling Twist. Whenever a creature you can see within 120 feet of you succeeds on a saving throw against being charmed or frightened, you can use your reaction to force a different creature you can see within 120 feet of you to succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC or suffer your choice of one of the following effects. So before we get into the effects, let's just go over that one more time because it's a little confusing. Whenever a creature you can see within 120 feet of you succeeds on a saving throw against being charmed or frightened. So that can be yourself, it can be an ally, it can be an enemy. Those are all creatures that you can see within 120 feet of you, if they are close enough. So this includes if you or an ally succeeds on a saving throw against an enemy ability, or if an enemy succeeds on their saving throw against your or an ally's ability. You can then use your reaction to force a different creature you can see within that same range to make another wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC or suffer one of the following effects. This really is a beguiling twist. The creature is charmed or frightened by you, your choice, for 1 minute. The creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a successful save. Or, the creature takes 3d10 psychic damage. So 120 feet is a really long range. Whenever any creature within that range of you succeeds on a saving throw, on being charmed or frightened, you can then charm, frighten, or just deal a bunch of damage to another creature, potentially. So if the enemy priest casts a fear spell on Fighter Bob, and Fighter Bob makes a saving throw, and they are within 120 feet of you, you can then sort of turn that frighten back around on the enemy spellcaster. Alternatively, if you use your Blessing of the Courts feature, you expend a spell slot, deal extra psychic damage, and make an enemy make a wisdom saving throw. If they succeed, you can make their friend right next to them make the saving throw. So it kind of gives you a second chance to frighten an enemy, or charm, or deal 3d10 psychic damage. Lots of options here, lots of weird scenarios that we can get into. I really like this ability, it's kind of cool. It gives you or your allies' abilities that charm or frighten a second chance against another target, or you can just turn back the enemy's abilities right onto them. It's pretty cool, I like this ability a lot. It has a lot of synergies within the rest of the subclass, that even if the rest of your allies or the enemies you're fighting don't charm or frighten, you can still get a lot of mileage out of this ability. And finally, at 15th level, we have Misty Presence. You gain a bonus action that you can use to force a creature you can see within 30 feet of you to make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, the target can't see or hear you for 24 hours. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of any turn during which you hit it with an attack roll, force it to make a saving throw, or dealt any damage to it. The effect ends early if you use this bonus action again. On a successful save, the target is immune to this feature for 7 days. Once you've used this bonus action, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, or until you expend a spell slot of 4th level or higher to use it again. Once again, we have a kind of weird but really cool ability. On a failed save, the target can't see or hear you for 24 hours. Even if it's just a couple rounds, that creature just not being able to detect you at all is crazy good. That could potentially be a game changer for a really tough fight. It can repeat the save if you deal damage to it or attack it or force it to make a saving throw or anything like that, but if you're not doing anything like that, it just can't perceive you. So you can use your Misty Presence ability, and if the enemy fails, you can freely run away from it and go toss the cleric a healing potion. You can get out of whatever melee you're currently in and go save the wizard, who's fighting another enemy. You could use it to avoid combat entirely. If you're infiltrating, going in, sneaking around, and there's a guard at just the wrong place at the wrong time, use Misty Presence on him and just walk right past him. And the really cool part, which I love this, I love how they've been doing this more and more, you can gain this feature back if you expend a spell slot, in this case one of 4th level or higher. I really like how they've been putting that little clause at the end of a bunch of different features over the course of this Unearthed Arcana subclass cycle. I think it is a really good idea, really cool, promotes choice and resource management and things like that. These last two abilities, Beguiling Twist and Misty Presence, really just changed my whole opinion of this Ranger subclass. Dreadful Strikes and Blessing of the Courts, what I'd say are the two real first features of the class, are good mechanically, but they sort of lack that tactical flair to them. But little did I know that they were just sort of stepping stones to these abilities, which have a lot of synergies with previous features, and are just really cool and interesting to use. If I was going to be playing in a game where I knew we were either starting at higher level or going to get to higher level rather quickly, picking the Fey Wanderer Ranger would be a really tempting choice. And yeah, overall, I think the Fey Wanderer Ranger is really good. I'm very happy with it. I don't think it's too strong. I don't think it's too weak necessarily. Its abilities really build on each other in a really interesting way. And late game, if you're really clever, you can use some of those later game features to really maximum effect. Yeah, there's nothing I really don't like here, so yeah. But let me know what you think about the Fey Wanderer Ranger. Is it too strong? Too weak? Do you think the features are cool? Do you think they're lame? Let me know. And that concludes our little coverage of Subclasses Part 3 for Unearthed Arcana 2020. Please leave a like if you liked the video, and subscribe if you like what I'm doing here. The Artificer videos will be out soon, hopefully, soon TM. And if no other Unearthed Arcana article comes out before then, I hope to cover the Blood Hunter class after that. So yeah, stay tuned, and until next time, guys.